Keep this channel on the air. There's an election coming up. We need independent analysis. Adam Zivo, he's an independent person who does analysis. He writes for the National Post. He has written for a number of years about the fentanyl crisis. Now, Mr. Carney said only 50,000 people in Canada have died from fentanyl, but that's beside the point. It seems now that the idea of giving safe drugs, free drugs to people, not just fentanyl, but other drugs, is being discredited. But what happened to all those officials, particularly the one in BC, of you and I spoke, who said we need to give drugs to everybody, decriminalize it?
Well, I mean, those officials,
they're
still in business. There's largely been no accountability for them. And the person who you're referencing is Bonnie Henry, who is the top doctor in BC, who pushed the safer supply drug experiment for many years, and last summer advocated for the legalization of all drugs. So on her end, what I found particularly egregious was this report, the one that I mentioned, for calling for full legalization of drugs through non-medical safer supply. When you read through the report, she actually admitted that there was almost no evidence to support such a radical experiment. And in fact, she said that her report was extrapolating from the current safer supply system, which is prescriber-based. So, it goes through a gatekeeper. The evidence base for the current medical model of safer supply is incredibly weak, which is now widely acknowledged by medical experts throughout Canada.
Well, it's discredited, but also, so the officials, the experts are passé, and in the NDP government in BC switched around and said, we did support this, we aren't now, because people know it's a bad idea.
Well, yeah, so, when I first reported on the fact that most of these quote-unquote safe government-provided drugs were being diverted to the black market, the BC NDP claimed that I was making things up, that I was fear-mongering, this was a conservative conspiracy, this was disinformation. Over time, I produced over 50 articles, investigative journalism, some op-eds showing this was a real thing. I interviewed doctors, drug users.
You went through it, you beat them all up.
Yeah, but eventually they finally acknowledged that this was a problem after they had to hire a special investigative unit to show that over 60 pharmacies were actually abusing this system and paying patients incentives to get on safer supply so they could make much more money off pharmacy dispensing fees.
It's astonishing. So generally across Canada, are many municipalities or jurisdictions still in the business of giving out free drugs?
Yeah, most of them actually. So
really?
In Alberta, it's functionally banned. In BC, now they require witness consumption. In Ontario, it's actually more chaotic and more prolific than in BC, but people don't know that because they think that Ford has been meaningfully opposing it when he hasn't been.
Because he stopped the safe, many of the safe supply places.
He stopped the safe consumption sites, which is very different from safe supply. Right. Safe consumption sites give you a space to use drugs, but they don't give you drugs. Safe supply gives you drugs, but doesn't give you a space to do drugs.
Very, very good point. So in Ontario, they have to push forward, and we'll do that. Adam, thank you very much for all your research in that. 3 minutes. To those of you who have subscribed and donated, a heartfelt thank you. You're keeping us on the air. If you're watching and you haven't, please try to do so, because 4 years ago, we started this show because there needed to be independent analysis. Now more than ever, with the Online Harms Act. Once that gets into law, it's been passed once by the House, there are going to be hundreds of bureaucrats censoring the news in Canada, censoring this show. We need to keep it on the air. Thanks for your support.